We live. We live. We live. Hey, everybody. Good evening.
That's your singing voice.
Listen, don't come for me.
Good evening. You
don't,
you
don't you
find
dare come for me.
you jamming.
Don't come for me.
You were jamming.
Don't come for me. Welcome to On Track with All My People Live, my babies. Make sure you share this broadcast with your friends and family. Tell your teacher friends, your counselor friends, your friends, your parent friends to come and join us. Today we have a great show for you, and we
For
don't
sure.
want you to miss it. So I'm just sharing this broadcast as well because you know what? I can't tell y'all to do something that I'm not doing. So you excited about tonight, Daitwan?
Yeah, because we've been hitting some success, some consistency and feedback that we've been getting from the show. I'm super excited about what we're going to be talking about today because it's something that I've been very passionate about for a very long time. And I also just like what we're putting together as a series. So I'm super excited about this.
Me too. So excited. So excited. So I guess we'll get started, guys. So let's tell you about what On Track with All My People Live is. On Track with All My People is a platform we created together. So my name is Amber Peters, aka Mizz P, and I'm the founder of On Track with Mizz P and creator of the On Track for College app. And he is
Daitwan David, the CEO, founder, creator, all those AKAs for All My People LLC. And I hope my AKA is up here. I'm going with Dr. Change because people have been putting respect on my name, my moniker.
I
I've earned it.
guess.
Talk to
Well,
me.
pretty much we like peanut butter and jelly. You put us together and you have On Track with All My People.
For
So
sure.
tonight we're gonna talk about expose them. Like that's our topic today. Our topic is expose them. And the reason why we chose this topic is because we want to talk about early exposure and also our guest, Darryl Roberts. Of Bridging Structural Holes will be with us to talk about early exposure and also to talk about a lovely event that he created that will be happening
Yeah.
next week. So we want to preface this episode by saying we are only like supporting live folks, right? So if you are live watching this show, we will be doing a giveaway later for some tickets to the classic, but you have to be live in order to participate. So we'll probably make that announcement again. If you hit us on the replay and we got tickets left, we might be able to help you.
There
But
we
you
go.
guys literally do not want to miss this event. Like I'm so geeked right now about next week. I'm so excited about next week
And
because
we're
I
gonna be able
know
to
it's gonna
break
be
it down
good.
for them. You're definitely gonna be able to break it down for them.
Yeah, because now we have the person who's creating this wonderful event that's gonna
The
be in there
plug.
with us. So yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. But wait, first let's talk about what happened this weekend, Zaytwan.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Can we
Man.
tell the people how we killed the dead? Like
Yeah.
can we
So
tell them?
for sure, Saturday during those torrential downpours, or right before it, because I think we brought on the weather. I
Yeah,
think we brought that on when we were
that was
done,
us.
right?
That was us. We did
Um,
that. We did that.
Shout outs to the New York Urban League for bringing us on as two presenters to kind of talk about what we do within college access and what we wanted to present. I'll quickly kind of talk about mine. Um, my topic, which is connected to the moniker that I'm trying to adapt and brand to make sure people like Amber, Mizz P, respects, right? Was talking about beginning with the end in mind. That is a principle that I think I have officially stolen from Dr. Stephen Covey and Sean Covey from Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And so my idea was helping young people to understand what their aspiration and goals were, but then also being able to kind of do the identity work, right? Which is what I'm focused on in my profession is understanding who you are and how that informs and creates your opportunities and choices. Like thinking of themselves as a brand and understanding that all successful brands have a mission and vision, and they make sure that their decisions are aligned with that. And when things are going crazy, their reality is anchored by those mission and vision. So it was really dope to see parents engage, to see students engage. I met one young man from New Jersey. that is on a full scholarship, 4.0 GPA. He's a sophomore that is starting over seniors. So I'm looking forward to connect with that young man. But tell us, because you had a really dope showing. A lot of people were super excited.
Right.
What happened? Talk to us.
I had to do a little shink rank. I had to show out. So here's the thing. So last week, like I was gonna do a like my first own like my only event for myself because I haven't done an independent event and like nobody signed up. Where it's okay.
Mhm.
It will be coming back to you guys in a virtual course. So make sure you look out for that. But this weekend, I decided to pour into the students and parents that were there. So I have been doing the Urban League's workshops for like 3-4 years now. So I was like, you know what can I give them that I haven't given them before?
Mhm.
And so the conversation was talking about how to get other people's money, right? And so we talked about ways that we can get in other people's pockets to pay for our college education. And it was amazing. And also, I think it was like, I really enjoyed, I had young people in the audience that was like, yeah, and make sure you tell your kids this too, right? So they was co-signing me crazy. And I loved it because then the parents were like more like, I guess, apt to listen because it was like, wow, she's saying it, but then here goes another young person saying that, dang, I wish somebody would have told me this earlier in the audience. And then I had parents who had, younger children, which I thought was dope. And I think the magic of that event is that there's always parents that are looking ahead. They're not waiting for forever to do these things. They are there in the trenches, getting the information. Listen, it was a whole monsoon on Saturday,
For
okay? And
sure.
it did not stop anybody from doing what they needed to do for their children. And I really just appreciate the conversation and the dialogue that we had about like how do we find money? Because that was the fundamental question that is on every parent's mind. Who
Mhm.
paying for this? That's
For
the
real.
question I get all the time. And so we were talking about all the different ways that they can get money, whether it be through the federal government, through the institution, or through local organizations and donors. So that's pretty much what we talked about. And we had a great time talking about how to get other people's money, and it was beautiful.
For real. The,
Beautiful. I
the, the
never seen
legal
so many
sticker.
people so excited to not be in their own pockets.
For sure. So, super excited. I want to take a second to kind of recap last week and really kind of let y'all to understand how this is really kind of becoming a really dope series that we're putting together. So last week we had our focus on Black men in college access. Shout out to Brandon Brown and Kevin Brooks who came on and blessed us. And this was a summary of their recap and the gems that they dropped. They were telling us that education is a part of life, and they want to make sure that people understand that regardless that this is like a sort of like a non-negotiable. You should be always learning, regardless of your current circumstances. Align your next steps with what you intend on doing next. Code switching is essential to oftentimes navigating multiple spaces, but also continue to show up as your authentic self. They also mentioned that education and success does not have a look. Super powerful. They want us to make sure that we push our students to understand their history and their legacy, which I'm super excited of why we're having this episode today. They stipulated that we can't change what people do, but we can teach them, right? Control our presentation. We can't control people's perception. Another bullet, which is super powerful, is that they want to make sure they build a human to human connection.
Oh
What they were
yeah.
referencing was ensuring that we kind of get to the hard work before we get to the hard work of having students do tasks and things of that nature. We want to make sure we expose our young people to opportunities and expose it to them early is what we're going to be talking about today. Check people that are bringing our young people down and make sure we put our best foot forward. Lastly, find mentors. So with that stated, Amber, you're going to kill me like always. But I want to take 60 seconds. Can I borrow 60 seconds?
You can
60 seconds,
borrow
it
seconds. You got
ties in.
60 seconds.
60 seconds is going to tie in. I'm looking at it right now. Everybody keep the clock. All right, 60 seconds. Okay. So I read something in Education Week. It was looking at middle school indicators for later success. It was a longitudinal study on 20,000 public students in Chicago, tracking them pretty much from elementary school all the way to high school, college. And what this study showcased was that intervention is necessary between the fifth to eighth grade, meaning that
Oh
there are
yeah.
things that need to happen in that particular grade, in order to increase the likelihood of success of students not only matriculating but persisting through college. It also mentioned that it's difficult to change the trajectory of students going to college if they don't establish good grades in middle school, right? So
Yeah.
this is something that I have anecdotally have seen to be, and
Hmm.
I don't know if anecdotally is a word, but to seem to be true. They mentioned a 3.5 GPA, which is about a 90, had a 50% chance of college success, right? And one thing that I found that to be interesting is a 1 point difference in the eighth grade GPA is linked to a 20-point difference in the likelihood of passing ninth grade.
Wow.
So what that is clear to me is that middle school is definitely a place where a lot of key foundational work needs to happen to um, to ensure that students are able to get to high school, but also for them to persist beyond that. And so, with that, I want to be able to pass it to you to introduce our guest that we're bringing on today, who's going to be very instrumental to this conversation.
Yes, so we are bringing on live Darryl K. Roberts of
Welcome,
Bridging
someone.
Structural Holes, who is a Harlemite. Like he will let you know he from Harlem. He gonna let you know he from Harlem. But one thing that I really love about his work is that early exposure is such a big thing to him, and because of that, he is creating an event, which he's gonna tell you more about. Because I can't do it justice, but he definitely can. He's doing a Harlem Renaissance Classic. So if you have never been to homecoming at an HBCU, you about to find out what it's
Mhm.
like next week, because it is going to be lit, big fella, and you do not want to miss it. Me and Daitwan are going to be in the building. So
For
like,
sure.
if you are going, make sure you go and you come and say hey. But we are also going to be giving away some tickets later on. To either a lucky viewer who is watching or somebody who catches us on the replay. So please make sure that you up there. Awesome. All right, Darryl. I hope you are ready. I need that camera to come on just so I know. Okay, just want to make sure you was there. All right. So welcome, Darryl K.
There we
Robert.
go.
What's
Look at the
good? What's
distinguished
good? What's good? What's good? We
Harlem
got Miss,
lean. Look at that.
Look
yeah,
at
we got Miss,
look at the
we got Miss
Harlem all
P.
on them.
We got we got Miss P and Dr. Change. I love
Talk
that.
about that gets me hype.
And we got Darryl.
There we go.
Oh wait, we got a viewer. Hey Tara. Tara's repping Morgan State University and Scotia College. I see you out here repping the HBCUs. Let's go.
Wow. Okay, I love that. Like, yeah, Tara is a alum of Barber Scotia, and Barber Scotia. When we talk about HBCU lore, um, Barber Scotia closed about 10 years ago.
Oh
And
wow.
but they still have a very strong, vibrant, and participating alumni association. Where they're raising money and trying to get the school, back open, which is an issue that plagues a lot of our HBCUs. They're always, underfunded. There's always the potential of, academic, insolvency.
Mm,
So one of the things that we need to really, connect with is, the history of these schools and why it's so important for them to survive. But, we'll talk about that whenever you point the finger in that direction.
for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So are you excited about next week? I know you're excited about next week because we're really excited. We cannot wait.
It's been a labor of love. Like last year, we had everything set. We had four HBCUs scheduled to come into New York City, into Harlem. Something that they've never done before in the type of format that we were putting together. And unfortunately, there was no vaccination, and people were calling me and saying, "Listen, if we have the classic, are we going to be sitting next to one another? I mean, are we going to be
Hmm.
wearing masks?" I said, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on. No, we got to cancel this." So, we canceled it. And the venue, City College, called me last year and toward the end of the year, and they said, "Listen, if April, May come along in 2021 and you're able to put it together and get to schools, we want to do it because it's under the backdrop of the Harlem Renaissance, which is a very historic, period, not just in Harlem history, not just New York history, but world history, because
Mhm.
the
sure.
Harlem Renaissance was the period that created, a lot of the things that we're doing politically, artistically, and creatively.
Yeah, awesome. So we gonna get deeper, guys. But of course, you know what we gotta
Mhm.
do. We gotta play a game. Why?
Yeah.
Because we need to know who Mr. Darryl K. Roberts is. So we're gonna play a little game called This or That, and you guys in the audience, you can absolutely chime in and let us know what your preferences are. Okay. So without further ado, we're gonna start with the first one. Ready?
Let's go. I'm
All
excited.
right. First one. Action flick or romantic comedy? Action flick or romantic comedy? Which one are you?
I'm more of a romantic comedy.
That's Harlem right there. That's smooth
Right, I,
Harlem
I
right there.
already knew that was
You
Smooth
know,
Harlem.
and if I can mention two of my favorite, I mean, can I do it?
For sure.
yes, please,
Okay,
sure.
so I'm old school when it comes to this, and even though the two movies that I'm going to mention are not strictly comedy, but they are comedies to a certain extent. So my favorite of all time is Love Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Classic.
yeah.
That
There he
that
is,
that's
Nicole.
that Chicago that Chicago in me. And oh wow, there's one other one, and for some reason, because when I think of Sanaa Lathan, I mean, I just develop a brain a brain cramp.
Listen.
Um,
She's my top person, so we're
okay,
about to have some conflict right now. That's my girl. We got love and
so
basketball.
yeah, right. That's it. Love and basketball.
There
That
we
I
go.
mean, that's it. I love the whole storyline. Of that. The injury. Next door neighbor. Falling in love. Basketball was their game, and basketball was always my game. So, those are two of my favorites. And and Nia Long. I mean, all right. Well, y'all already know where my soft spots are.
I get it. I get it.
I feels you. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So since you went to an HBCU and you're an HBCU alum, which one would you have rathered? A step show or a sporting event?
Oh man.
Wow. That's a tough one because
You gotta pick. You gotta choose one.
ooh, ooh, wow. Okay, it has to be the step show because as a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, incorporated Bloody Beta chapter, Lincoln University. When you're a part of an organization like that, showing your spirit, showing your core values, showing your cardinal principles through a step show is something that, there's no reservations on it. Nobody can tell you, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Where, at a sporting event, and I also played basketball for Lincoln, there was always a noose around my neck. You couldn't do that. We got to pull you back, the shackles. So for me, it was always a step show.
Okay. Okay. All right. The next one. Hip hop or R&B soul?
Okay, so another tough one. I can hear Teddy Pendergrass singing in my ear. I mean, come on, turn out. But then again, I grew up in Harlem. I had connections in the Bronx, so it would have to be hip hop. I mean, that whole generation. Sedgwick Avenue, for those of you
Sure.
who are purists
For
about
sure.
hip hop, where it all started out. DJ Cool Herc. Any fans
Uh-huh.
out there? Any fans out there? Sedgwick Avenue. So yeah, it would have to be hip hop. Yeah, no doubt.
Nice. All right. Staycation versus tropical vacation.
Oh please, I don't even have to think about that. Tropical vacation. Come on. Now, first of all, I grew born and raised in Harlem, in New York. cold as it can get, lived in Toronto, Canada 5 years, lived in Chicago for 10 plus years, tropical vacation. You know,
He's
and
like,
I'm
I'm
talking
out
about
of here.
somewhere hot,
Upset.
where, you know, it doesn't get any lower than 85 degrees, even at night. You know, I mean, I'm all about that. Yeah, tropical vacation. I didn't even have to think about that one. When you said staycation, I said, what means staying home and you're off work? What, as soon as the classic is over, I'm heading down. Well, I can't tell everybody where I'm going because
Yeah,
but
we get it.
but I'm out of here.
We get it.
Last one. Fiction versus nonfiction.
So memoirs are my thing. So
Nonfiction it is. All right.
you
Thank
know,
you so much
I
for
love the
playing and for like
memoirs
being
and
up to it. Cause you know, sometimes our
yeah,
questions kind of throw people off. So I'm
right.
glad that you played. But we finna
You
get
know
in
the
this
thing is,
conversation though.
right, and I wanna encourage everybody to read a really good book. I'm halfway through it, and I'll probably finish it tomorrow because it's really that interesting. But you know, Will Smith's
Oh
new book.
yeah, I heard it was great.
It's
I heard
called
it was
Will.
so good.
Yeah, and you know, for those of you who think it's going to start off with West Philadelphia, I mean, no, it doesn't. It doesn't start off with that. You know, I mean, you know, he talks about mom and dad and his inspirations and grandma and, you know, how he was somewhat of a nerd and all that, you know, but yeah, I would definitely encourage, you know, people, you know, it's a good read. It's a good gift. It's a good gift.
That's
And I
phenomenal.
think that, you know, with all the other gifts that are kind of caught up in, you know, import export right now, I think getting a good book is something that you can always count on because, you know, education is important. And, you know, and if you're reading a real life story, you may see something in his story that may relate to something that you might be going through. And, you know, and it's all about, you know, sharing that knowledge. So I would definitely encourage people to go out and get Will's book. And if you do the Audible, Will is the narrator. And you know how
Yeah, I
funny
heard
he is.
he actually is the one that's reading it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He's off the hook.
super dope. Shout out to is that Mario?
Marlo.
Marlo. Hey Marlo.
Yeah, Marlo is a Hampton.
Oh, look at all these HBCU alums showing up.
Right.
I
Oh
feel
yeah,
y'all.
she's a HBCU to the max, and Marlo has been so helpful, you know, with some of the things that I shouldn't say some of them. Like when we did the Black College Homecoming Initiative, she was all over it, and you know, major shout out to her. And for those of you who are going to be attending the classic,
Woo, woo.
woo! So those of you who are attending the classic, you know, if you're there for the 7:30 game, you will get a chance to see Marlo, and you will give her a major thumbs up.
That's phenomenal. So
Absolutely.
while Marlo's there, Amber, I know you're getting prepared for this first question. Marlo, can you please in the chat tell us who is the real HU? I want you to answer that question. I know that's a contentious question. Please tell us who's the real HU, Marlo.
Ooh, you
Oh,
starting
please.
trouble out here.
All right, Amber, to you. How are we leading into this interview to make sure we maximize the space?
All right, so we're just gonna ask you a few questions. Like me and Daitwan, we want to get up all in your business, but we ain't gonna dig too deep, you know. But
Right.
we definitely
Okay.
gonna get in your business tonight. So my first question for you is, tell us about your college journey and what led you to choosing the HBCU that you attended.
Oh, interesting. You know, of course, I grew up in New York, and during that time, you know, of course, you know, I'm a little bit older than some of your viewers. We didn't have access to, you know, Google, internet, and you know, the world didn't evolve that way. And you know, when I was making my decision to go to college, little did I know it had already been made for me.
Mm.
My grandparents and my parents were HBCU graduates, but they also had graduate work experience at PWI. So they felt all along, and I had no idea all this planning was going on behind the scenes, that because of the nurturing that I would receive at an HBCU, the connection, with my African culture,
Mm.
would be something that would be a big part of the experience that I may have been missing out on, growing up in New York. I mean, because, I was an athlete in high school, it was all about basketball and the girls and whatnot. And there were certain parts of the building block that they felt that the HBCU life, would be able to fill in those gaps. So, I had my mind set on going to Rutgers. But, I guess God blessed me with a broken ankle my senior year. So I didn't get the offers that I thought I would get for college. And I ended up having to go to a junior college for 1 year. And I asked my parents, I said, listen, I want to go to some random school. And they said, you can go anywhere you want, but the money for school is going to be at an HBCU. So, you go wherever you want, but the money for school is going to be at an HBCU. So it was between two schools, and both of them were orange and blue. So it was either going to be Morgan, which, my grandmother is a alumna of Morgan State University in Baltimore, where I spent, most of my summers every year until I was ready to go to college, or Lincoln University, which, my father had taken some coursework there before he transferred to Norfolk State. But he shared with me it's the first degree granting HBCU, and it's close enough to Philadelphia where I have relatives. So, my college journey was, a family decision, but it wasn't really forced on me. But because I grew up in a household where, that was part of the conversation as it related to higher education, it was a very easy decision for me to accept. And I wouldn't trade it for any other college experience in the world.
Oh, I love it. Daitwan, you got the next one.
Yeah. So we're thinking about like where you went to college and everything. Can you just do like a quick summary? Because I want people to understand what is it that you do, and then I want to be able to kind of ask this particular question so they understand the context of how you're answering this question. So how would you describe the the main focus? What are you doing in your general day in terms of your profession?
Okay, so I think for what I do right now, I own a nonprofit, and it was started about 4 years ago. Um, the training that I received once I graduated and I went to work is the perfect training for what I do. And I think that's one of the things that, I want to emphasize to listeners who may be thinking about their college journey. The things that I did in college, like majoring in accounting, minoring in anthropology, I didn't know how I would apply those things. But, that first job I had, working in the financial district, Wall Street, and then from there, I went to work for this very large apparel company in Portland, Oregon. I don't want to give them a plug right now because it's not about them, but I think, most people think of Michael Jordan sneakers. They know the company that I went to work for. Spent 15 years with them in sports marketing. And then the last 7 years prior to me starting my nonprofit, I worked for the largest, unquestionably, e-commerce company in the world. And I think, anybody that's listening probably gets a package from them at least once or twice a week, like I do.
Like today?
So, with them, I worked in community relations. So it was a blend of the community relations, getting into the community, understanding the urban market, opening up, new locations and understanding the challenges that the people face in those communities, and the sports marketing where, we had products that we were trying to market and get people within mostly urban markets to purchase. And that with the financial background that I gained working out of the financial district. So, when I combine all of those things into one, the role and the job, and I don't look at it as a job right now because I'm doing what I'm very passionate about, and I feel like it's my purpose and my calling. And those are two important takeaways that I would want to share with anyone who's getting ready to go into that college journey that, you know, you want to look for your purpose and your calling, because then you never really have a job. You really have something that's part of your calling and your purpose. And the things that I'm doing right now at Bridging Structural Holes are very consistent with that.
So that's a great segue into this main question, because you're talking about the purpose and calling. We now understand the influence that your parents and your grandparents had on like your post-secondary journey. What would you say right now, being in this field, and also it's probably connected to why you are probably inspired to do the work that you're doing right now? What would you say is the difference in how young people are planning for college now versus when you were planning for college at your point in time, like planning to actually go to college?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the big difference is, you know, the digital world. I mean, because the digital world has a lot of benefits, but one of the things that it's kind of devoid of is that, you know, the social capital that I was able to gain as a youth, having to physically connect with, you know, my role models that were outside of my family, you know, people who had attended college, or people who may have worked in the financial industry, or people who may have been just emotional, inspirational people for me. You know, this is one of the things that I think that in this day and age, we're not able to make that type of connection, you know. And I think that, you know, every now and then I kind of fall prey into, you know, as you can see, you know, I always have my phone with me. So I'm texting, I'm connecting. But one of the things that I try to do at least 2 or 3 times every week is, you know, to go out and meet with people that I may be marginally connected with, but I know by deepening that connection, you know, that whole 6 degrees of separation thing comes into play. Like, their friends become my friends. And if you're only friends with your limited group of friends, you know, your connections are their connections. And there's no connections outside of that. So I think the ability to expand your network, expand your social capital, not as it relates to the digital world, is something that's a huge difference between, you know, what I did early in my generation and what I see this generation doing right now.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Like, first of all, can I just say like how that ties into like our show last week? That was one thing that came up. So I'm guessing the recurring theme here is building social capital, y'all. Like, get to know people, because you never know how they can help. All right. So the next question for you is like, what would you say to people who have not so nice things to say about HBCUs?
Well, I would listen. And, you know, of course, having attended an HBCU, and I have a lot of friends that have attended HBCUs, and I've been at conferences, and I've visited, you know, a lot of HBCUs, and I've done the same thing for PWIs. So how I would respond is, I think in every journey and every experience, there are some not so nice things that you're going to encounter, you know, and not to use like fairy tales or storybook themes, but, you know, Dorothy's travel down the yellow brick road wasn't always, you know, peachy cream. So, you know, every college journey is going to have some thorns. They're going to have some goblins. There's going to be some witches and demons, you know, but you have to find a way to kind of navigate that, because, you know, your college experience, whether or not it's at an HBCU, PWI, it's going to have its ups and downs, just like in life. You know, you're going to have similar ups and downs. So, you know, the things that, you know, people say about HBCUs, I would have that response to it, that, you know, in every college experience, there's going to be things that you lament. And I think that, you know, one of the things that sticks out in my mind, you know, I remember, you know, dealing with that financial aid line. And I think financial aid lines are long and they're a headache, whether or not you're in a PWI or an
This is
HBCU.
true.
You know, you're still gonna have the same issue. You know, that
No
roommate
matter what.
that you can't stand, you know, who's always drinking and smoking something. You're gonna have that in PWIs and HBCUs. So there's shortcomings, but the positives are at the end of the road when you were able to withstand, those shortcomings and those trials and tribulations, and you're able to toss that tassel. And I think if you're in college, for the right reason, and you understand that it's a stepping stone to bigger things in life, whether you're at an HBCU or PWI, you're going to have a well thought out end result.
Phenomenal, I think, response, like super, super phenomenal. And I thank you. I appreciate the fact that you led with that you would listen, right? Like you're not going to dismiss what it is,
Mhm.
right? But you're also going to give the facts of like this is life, happens everywhere. We're going to have to figure out the best way to navigate it. I truly appreciate that. One of the things that I've been fortunate to do is work with a middle school that has allowed us to go on a college tour, a 5-day, 4-night college tour. We'll visit schools pretty much in the DMV area, and one of them was Morgan State. And visiting Morgan State, they would give this chant, "I love my HBCU," and they were like, and our students would come back singing that, right? This next question we want to kind of ask is to get some insight. What are your plans for young people, and why HBCUs? It's kind of like a two-part question, but I think the why really kind of speaks to what it is that you plan on doing with young people. Can you share
Okay,
some
good.
insight about that?
And it's funny that you should ask that because I have my young people brief. So
I was like, is he drinking the juice? What?
I respect. I love it. I
Listen,
love
do
it.
I
your
mean, come
thing. You
on.
gotta wait.
And this is not, I didn't plant this prop. I travel with a couple of these in my backpack, all the time because they're refreshing.
I hear it.
And it's
I hear it
I love
loud and
it.
clear.
okay. So, Dr. Change, that is a absolutely awesome question for me at this point because, one of the things that I'm a huge advocate about and my board members, are pushing, well, they don't really have to push. They're just reminding me that, next year when we go to the next iteration on the HRC, the Harlem Renaissance Classic,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we want to do is start focusing on developing that pipeline. And whether it's for HBCU, PWI, of course, I lean toward HBCUs for certain kids because of the nurturing and truly understanding of your heritage and your legacies. Because I think that the PWIs are not going to be able to give you that. And a lot of that has been stripped out of primary education, secondary education. So we really want to find a way to get that back. So one of the things, and I think I had mentioned this to Mizz P, is that, we want to do a college career type fair next year. But we don't want to do it with, and this really bothers me when I go to college fairs and I talk to some of the kids and they're at the beginning of their senior year or the latter part of their junior year, and this is their first college fair.
Oh
They just
yeah.
started thinking about this. That's like you go out with a woman and you marry her without going through a lot of the different steps, or you go out with a man and you say yes without going through a lot of the steps. And I think these steps, especially in urban communities, need to start a lot sooner because whether you're in Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Cleveland, any of the urban hot spots where because of, economics, a lot of the schools, especially the public schools, have been stripped of finances. So that means that we no longer have certain creative art programs, things that kind of enhance the critical thinking. We no longer have, after school programs for those kids that may be slow learners. And these are things that are very important when it comes to urban communities. So to have college fairs where you actually have college counselors, college instructors coming out and engaging, with parents and kids, answering a lot of their, preliminary questions they may have when they start out on that journey, is something that, we can't hide anymore. It's something that's mandatory for us to get our kids to the starting gate, because once we get them through that fifth, sixth, seventh grade and they started thinking about some of the issues that they're going to have to face in high school and then in college, we'll be much further ahead. And,
Yep.
and one other point about that, by starting them younger at the fifth and sixth grade level, and we're talking about in every city, you have these select high schools. So we want to start doing more and preparing our kids. And we're going to talk about New York schools like the Stuyvesants and the Bronx Sciences and the Brooklyn Techs and all these schools where, kids of color tend to enter at a alarmingly low rate.
Yep.
For sure.
So by us starting a lot earlier with college fairs, college readiness, financial literacy, it's just going to keep us a little bit further ahead, as a community.
Nice. Ooh, I think you kind of touched on it, but like, why is early exposure so important to you?
Well, as early exposure is going to, it's going to plant seeds, number one. And just like, if you have a garden, and you have 8 months to go before the frost, you don't want to plant those seeds at month 7. You want to get those plants, those seeds in the ground, get the roots to growing. And I think that's the perfect analogy to use in a situation like this. So if you start planting seeds, irrigating soil, fertilizing the soil a lot earlier, you'll be in a better position to take advantage of opportunities that may come across later in the game. Because, if you're waiting until, the last semester or the last half of your junior year, you're already so far behind. And then, when you talk to some of the kids and they haven't taken a pre-SAT yet, the whole shock of being able to take a 3 to 4 hour test is enough to make any kid forget about calculus, algebra, American history, let alone Black history. Come on. So by starting them much earlier in life, we could, start to plant those seeds. We can start to inspire. We can start to allow them to develop their own little micro mini goals. So those stairs don't seem as steep once they get to the point where, they're taking the ACT or the SAT and they got to sit down and navigate, financial aid applications or, comparing, school A to school B.
Love it.
Yeah. So we definitely understand the significance. I think some places like New York City understood the significance. They had programs like the college access for all, for the middle school initiative that they were doing and trying to get students exposed and connected to early awareness. They had them going on tours with some of the CUNY schools, phenomenal. You have associations like the National Association for College Admissions that will present information to parents about some of the things that they can do. So in planning, I want to kind of just frame some of this really quickly. So they're saying, like, one article I'm looking at, they have want parents to talk about college early on, especially to be able to kind of set the expectations, right? So like if it is something that reverberates in the household, in the student psyche, it becomes something that is more like manageable, something that they feel is more tangible and realistic for them to achieve. They stated that they want to make sure that they make the schools the partner of the student, right? So just making sure that it versus it being something that is like more disciplinary in its approach, creating it as a partnership, right? Like, and that becomes an easy way for students to kind of engage in owning their education. Another thing that they talked about is helping students to identify the things that they really enjoy, like in school, like the classes, like specifically, right? And because like, you look at education as a pyramid, the foundation is brought at the bottom where you learn a lot of general things, then it kind of centralizes up to more specific. So what you want, your passions hopefully are aligned in that way. These are all great, right? But I want to know what does early awareness, like how does it impact the amount of students in particular, probably Black and brown students that will consider HBCUs, which is part of the reason that you're creating this event. So how is early awareness going to impact like this, like students going to HBCUs? And then also, how does it connect to this specific event that you're hosting?
Okay. So, one of the things that, we try to develop in our programming is, for kids to be able to take a look at things that they really like to do. Because you have students right now that think that the only thing that I'm going to be able to do in life is tech, but they may not have a real interest in tech. They may like gadgets, they may like hitting keyboards, they may like sending text messages, but when it comes to the aptitude or really the passion for developing software, that may not be something they really want to do.
For
so
sure.
I think that it becomes incumbent upon parents to kind of pay attention to cues that might give them indications as to what their children may ultimately want to do with their careers. Because I went to school with a number of people who they waited until like almost the middle of their senior year before they declared a major. And with the amount of money we're spending on college in this day and age, it's a waste of money for you to be in a pharmacology or a biotech program, sure. And then you realize that that's not really something that I'm interested in. So if not only we can do constant temperature checks with our children to find out what their interest is in certain careers, but it could also allow your children to do things prior to college that will provide them with the infrastructure for a particular major. And some of the things that they can do, even as high school kids, you have corporations that have workshops or intern training type programs. So you can realize, like, if you want to major in finance, but you don't understand from a practical standpoint what finance is all about, then it's not something that you're going to enjoy as a career, and it's just going to be money down the drain. Now, one of the things that we plan on doing, we wanted to do it this year, but we couldn't get access to the kids, just as you and I were talking about, Dr. Change a little bit earlier, how when COVID hit, access to kids in school, was almost impossible. So what we wanted to do is, because there's such a really big push for sports for kids in urban markets, and it's something that I complain about all the time, because on every other corner you see a basketball court. So the politicians and I don't want to diss them, and I don't want to say this in a pejorative sense, but it almost seems like for kids of color, you think that that's the only thing that we could do. But what we want to do next year, we have a program that will give kids of color the insight into what your sports passion can ultimately lead to.
For sure.
You don't have to bounce the ball. You don't have to hit a ball. You don't have to run a ball off tackle. You can take your passion for sports and parlay that into a career in sports that has more longevity. You could be a sports agent. You could be a sports, medical doctor, a kinesiologist. With all these injuries that players are getting these days, there's plenty that you can do in that area. Or you can ultimately own a sports franchise. And the thing is that if you start thinking about that at an early age, one of the things that, I was known for, and, my friends, just hated me for this, when I was growing up, I was always the person who I would organize events. I would organize activities. Like if we were going to play softball, I was the one who organized the guys and, okay, you're the captain, you choose your guy. I mean, so that it's always been in my background to, organize events and try to get something out of it other than just the sweat and the grind. So I think, parents, pay close attention to your kids and don't diss any of the attributes that they may have right now, because you never know when that's going to become, a career money winner that's going to pay back that college tuition and help pay for their mortgage.
That part.
I'll quickly speak on that. Amber's going to wrap that up. I had a student that talked about going on tournaments, playing video game tournaments. And I was like, what are you talking about? The winners of them tournaments are making buku dollars, like
Money, and
absolutely
none of them
crazy.
look like our kids.
Yeah, crazy. But Amber, do your thing.
Let's
So I
talk
want to
about
comment on
it.
that real quick. Esports is becoming a big part
Yes, it
of
is.
HBCU life and HBCU curriculum. The CIAA, who two of the teams that are coming in for the HBCU Classic, are a very big part of that growth. So, HBCUs are a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to that because
Mm.
they actually have, leagues. And don't ask me what games they playing, but there are kids that are making six. One kid, made seven figures at a
Oh yeah.
tournament at the Staples Center in California,
Oh
and he
yeah.
was telling a story about how his parents used to have to hide his, PS2 or whatever it was. But now, he's making enough to send them on trips around the world, so he don't have to listen to them complain all the time.
Awesome. So for you guys who are tuning in, we're here with Darryl K. Roberts, and he's telling us about, well, he about to tell us about the biggest, baddest event that is about to happen next week, which we will be in the building for. And I'm so
For sure.
excited. I'm so excited. So like, what led you to creating this Harlem Renaissance Classic, and like what do you want to accomplish with this venture? Like what do you hope to, like, the kids are gonna get out of it? The people that are there, what do you want them to get out of this event?
Okay, so the Harlem Renaissance Classic has been a dream event of mine for years. When I was in Chicago, I did one very similar called the MLK Dream Classic. It revolved around Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday in January. Similar concept. So, what we decided to do when we were thinking about a big event like the Harlem Renaissance Classic was we wanted to figure out what the end game was. And my board members, we sat down in a meeting and they said, the issue that we're going through right now, the biggest issue in keeping our society from moving forward is racism. There is a huge dividing line that separates left from right. And in order for us to bridge that gap, and hence bridging structural holes, we need to bring the disparate parties into the same room. So when we started thinking about the Harlem Renaissance Classic, we thought that, okay, let's do it a little bit different than the traditional black football classics or black basketball classics where, you'll have Morgan against Howard or Jackson State against FAMU. We decided that what we wanted to do is we wanted to put parties that never or rarely play against one another, the teams, alumni, and supporters into the same gym and allow that to melt away at the racial divide. Because, there's one thing about sports. And many years ago, I read, a book, the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. And he talked about how he was able to bridge that racial divide in South Africa by bringing the blacks in Soweto onto the same page with the national rugby team called the Springboks. And what he did, he went on. He came to Soweto. He stood up on a soapbox and he put on the Springboks jersey and the Springboks hat. Now, the Springboks in South Africa were tantamount to the KKK here in the United States. And Nelson Mandela's feeling was that if we can unite through sports, then we can unite humanity in our communities. And it worked. I mean, the Iron Curtain of apartheid was brought down. Of course, he was already elected, the president in the first democratic election in the country's history. And, our goals and our aspirations for the Harlem Renaissance Classic are to do pretty much the same thing. We want to bring in, schools that rarely come north and utilize that as a marketing PR tool, which we don't do a lot of other than just the college fairs here in the New York area, the HBCU college fairs, and give the students, the high school students, more of an experiential feel for what it's like to go to an HBCU, because you can't get that at a college fair. You
Mm-hmm.
can't get that online by filling out an application. And you can't really get it, when you go on a college tour, because everything is kind of muted down a little bit and everything is polished up. We want everything to look just perfect. But when they come to the Harlem Renaissance Classic, next Tuesday, they're going to see the bands funking it out. They're going to see the cheerleaders marching it out. They're going to see teens, battling on the court. It's going to be loud. I tell everybody, bring your earplugs because the DJ is going to be loud. The bands are going to be loud. The Greeks are going to be loud. It's just going to be a loud environment. And the kids are going to be like,
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait.
I didn't know. What is this? What it's all about? So, I mean, it's going to be an awesome time. And, like I said, the end result we're looking for is, we really feel that if we can bridge that racial divide and kind of enhance the social capital that's missing, social equity, and kind of shrink down inequality and create access, exposure and opportunity, then, we would have achieved the primary goal of the Harlem Renaissance Classic.
Nice. I love it. I'm geeked. Like, I'm so excited. I think me and Daitwan has been talking about this thing for the last couple of weeks. Like, we cannot wait to be in the building and experience the energy. Like, for some of you who don't know, I am not an HBCU alum, so I have never been to homecoming. So this is going to be it for me because I've never been. So I'm hoping to catch some of that energy. I always see it on TV and I'm like, oh my God. I totally be in the vibe if I was able to be a part of the vibe. But I'm really excited to be able to experience that along with the students as well next week.
Well, I'm hoping to get my fix. I went to my first homecoming in 2019. I went to Spellhouse homecoming. I'm not an HBCU alum either. I went to that homecoming. Phenomenal. I brought tickets to the next year and this year, and both were canceled, and I'm feeling some kind of way. So I am super happy that this is happening because I need that fix. I need that feel. With that stated, we're wrapping up to one of our final sessions and questions. We have a what now section, and this is sort of like a call to action of what people should now do now that we've had and presented this information. What would you say really are quickly your top 2 things that you would want and usher and urge parents to do for their middle school students or in order to expose their children to college access early on?
Okay. Number one is exposure. I think it's, it's key to long-term success to provide, exposure to your child early and often, because, and I know we use this in the classroom to kind of symbolize absorbing water with a sponge, but kids they're like sponges, and they absorb, they draw in, things that are in their environment. So, if the primary stimuli for them is TV and video games, then, they're going to be somewhat one-dimensional as adults. So, take them to a play, take them to the museums, and encourage them, to read things that will, kind of expand, their intellect. Like I shared at the beginning, I really love memoirs. I love reading, about people. I love reading about. Well, I really love the series, Barack Obama and Michelle. I mean, these are people that we all looked up to, but it's an opportunity for you to kind of read their books and learn what makes 2 world leaders tick. So I think, access is number one. And as parents, we need to be open-minded about, educational opportunities that exist. I participate in discussion with, a couple of my friends, they're PWI graduates. And we were talking about some of the things that, were really important. So, when you're thinking about school, it's fair to think about, okay, in that particular major, how many PhDs do they have as instructors? Or how large is the research library? Okay. What is their graduation rate? These are all fair, but you can't, you can't denigrate a school or an opportunity because you heard that, so and so went there and he graduated and he flunked out and he's working at McDonald's right now. I mean, you can't utilize that one example because I can find you two examples of somebody who went to a PWI who had the same experience. So help your child like navigate the college experience by being open-minded to different opportunities that might be the best opportunity for them.
I love that. Oh my gosh. So I wanna like piggyback on that before we get into the get money section. But first I want to just say thank you so much for like showing up and showing out. Like I didn't expect nothing less. Okay. I did not expect anything less than what you gave today. But like
the juice box.
he's like, sip the juice. I feel you. But like thank you so much for like one, I think one, you fit in line with everything that me and Daitwan have been saying since day one. It's just like this early exposure is so important. I can't tell you the amount of young people that I have met in their 12th grade experience that are like angry at like how left out they felt. Like, wait a minute, I've been in this school 4 years and it's the first time you're telling me I have to do 101 steps and I have till June to do it, plus do all my other things also, right? So like I think also like really like harping on that parents, you have power, and that you get to be a part of this process even if you feel like you don't know how to do it, right? Like do it with your kid. Like my mom didn't really know how to do this thing either, but she was definitely in my corner until she couldn't be in my corner anymore. But like I think it's really important that we are there and like on the ground floor, helping them to like see things. We can go see it with them. We can take them to the trip. We can, call the different schools together. We can do research side by side. Like it can happen if you make it happen. So thank you for saying that. In this get money section though, because we always talking about getting other people's money. That was my workshop on Saturday. Was getting other people's money to pay for college, right? So we can jump out of our pocket and into somebody else's. So 2 scholarships that you should absolutely know about right now. And this is for the village as well. So even if you're on here and you don't have a child, but you have a niece, nephew, a brother or sister, or someone who is going to college, please make sure you share the information. So Taco Bell right now is doing their Live Moss scholarship. It is a video. Situation, 2-minute video. They have 3 specific questions. You pick one of the questions, you do a 2-minute video, and you can enter to win a scholarship. Also, Generation Google also has a scholarship for anyone who is involved in tech. I'm seeing a lot of my young women, and I'm so excited to like know a lot of young women who are interested in computer science, and things of that nature. But like also encourage our boys too. We want everybody to like win and jump in. But this is primarily a tech-based scholarship. So if you're interested in like software design or computer science or any of those things, this will definitely be a great scholarship for you. So make sure you check those both out. I believe Generation Google isn't until January. Like the deadline is January, and so is Taco Bell. So you have plenty of time to get it done. But just make sure you get it done because we need to make sure we get these monies. Okay. Also, shameless plug. Make sure you download On Track for College for information and tips. These links will also be on there because we got to make sure that we share the information and share the knowledge and share the wealth. So make sure you check it out there. They'll be on there this week. And you ready to wrap us up, Daitwan?
I am. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us. This was a phenomenal segue to a phenomenal event that's going to be happening next week. Shout outs to Tara that saluted this discussion. I want to do a recap and then I'm going to ask you the final question that I've been waiting for. So
Okay.
one of the things we just to recap, loose concrete recap once again. You mentioned some key highlights. Find your purpose and your calling. That's what you led with, like talking about how very crucial it was. For almost 3 weeks in a row, we've had our special guest mention how valuable social capital is, right? Connect with role models and people that are outside your family, and deepen those connections as well, right? Not just what you're doing on social media, but also being able to kind of get face to face and get that human connection is super important.
Mhm.
Expand your network beyond the digital world was definitely emphasized, and I think that is critical as well. So one of the things you reference is that in every journey, you're going to experience things that are not so, you know, uh, the yellow brick road kind of thing. Like it's not greener pastures, but you need to find your way to navigate through that, and that is a key lesson to life, whether you're at a PWI or an HBCU. The steps to exploration need to start sooner, especially in a lot of our urban areas, because of the lack of resources, because of the lack of opportunities that happen because of stripped creative opportunities and stripped opportunities to think critically. I thought that was such a profound thing. You also mentioned a couple of other key things. You mentioned look at parlaying your interest into careers for longevity. I absolutely love that because one of the things that I want to emphasize, I want students to understand the industry and all the opportunities that they present, not just the specific career. The industry, understanding that is super important. Don't telling parents and urging parents, don't diss or dismiss your child's interests. Expose them to key long-term success. Exposure leads to key long-term success, and encourage your children to read things that expand their intellect. You mentioned like the two giants, the legacies of the Obamas, like being able to talk about the world leaders and how they've been able to, motivate, inspire, lead, and just navigate the world is phenomenal. And also be open-minded about educational opportunities that exist and finding the best fit. You dropped a lot.
Whole
I
lot of
fumbled some of
gems.
those. That was a lot, and I'm super happy that all of this is going to be manifested in the event that you're having next week. So here we have 60 seconds. You don't have a lot of time to think or a lot of time to answer. You may need your juice box. I've been thinking about this question for a very long time. I've been thinking about it. All right. Which of these is more important to the culture in terms of exposing our young people to HBCUs or exposing people to HBCUs? Which is more important? A different world
Mm.
or school days?
Ooh.
I would say a different world, and I lived through, both of those. I lived through the production of all of Spike's earlier movies, and of course, I go all the way back to She's Got to Have It. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that was one of the earlier ones. So, but what I really liked about A Different World was it gave you a real holistic view of the entire makeup of the HBCU and life afterwards. I mean, when you think of, the relationship between, Whitney and Dwayne. I mean, and I love Dwayne. As a matter of fact, friends at Nike used to tease me because I used to have some of those flip up glasses that he used to wear. And but it showed you not only the educational challenges and how the students were able to overcome, but it showed you the relationships and the nurturing
Mm-hmm.
love that
Mm-hmm.
like the instructors and the maintenance man and all of the pieces that kind of like blended in together, like Glennis Turman's role and Sinbad's role, and all of these people kind of it blended together to show you the holistic community aspects of that program and how it kind of related to the same type of community that you're going to face when you toss that tassel and you go back out into the real world. I mean, the whole evolution of relationships from day one. It showed you a little bit about Greek life, but it really focused on some of the challenges that people of color have when it comes to telling their story, living their story, and becoming a part of their story. And all of them are like different pieces, telling it, being it, living it. You know, those are all pieces that kind of blended in to the whole theme of a different world. Hail Hillman. Hail Hillman.
There we
Right.
go.
Well, thank you again so much for being with us and for telling us about your amazing event that we finna, like, we gonna do some highlights for you guys because we listen, we want to make sure that we share, because sharing is caring and it can be fun. Next week we will be live at the Classic, so you can catch us live on both of our social media platforms.
Sure.
But we're gonna have a recorded show just for you right here so that we do not miss a week. But we are on our way to Instagram land. So, you know, if you want to continue the conversation, you have young people who are interested in planning for college, make sure you send them over to our platform. So I am on track with Mizz P, and he is All My People LLC, and you can send them to either one, and we'll continue the conversations there. But thank you so much again, Darryl, and we can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah, this is an awesome show, and we definitely need to get some pictures, the three of us. I'm gonna have on this new fedora that's being made specifically for the Classic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when you see it, you're gonna go like, no, he didn't.
Wow.
Well, listen, I want you to
It's
be
one
as
of those.
extra
They
as
got the
possible.
designer, they're designing it right now, and so I'm gonna have it on display.
Be extra. We co-sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, folks.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you next week. Till next time.
Thank you. We're out.